We are winning on everything. And he puts that all in caps. The fake news is working overtime. No tax on overtime. If I got Moscow and Leningrad free, I am Donald Trump. Knock, knock. It's President Trump. I'm asking for you to keep supporting him. Then Donald Trump posts the following. Very unfair media is at work on my meeting with Putin. Oh, very unfair media, Donald.
Donald Trump has faced plenty of political and economic setbacks, but few hit as hard as the news that the world's largest oil market has just slammed the door on America. In a stunning and highly coordinated move, a coalition of major buyers, led by powerhouse economies in Asia, announced they would be drastically reducing, if not outright eliminating, U.S. crude imports in favor of alternative suppliers. It's a decision that rattled global markets, blindsided Washington, and sent Trump into an explosive behind-the-scenes tirade. The shift didn't happen overnight. For months, subtle changes in buying patterns hinted at a rebalancing of global energy flows. Countries that once relied heavily on U.S. crude began courting Middle Eastern, African, and even Russian suppliers. But the final announcement, delivered during an international energy forum, made the break official.
Small personal sacrifice right now, please. There are only seconds until the window closes for my deadline. He goes constantly quoting fired losers and really dumb people like John Bolton. Pause. You mean your former national security advisor? Answer Trump's plea for support. Donald Trump sees his approval absolutely plummeting, and he's quite literally begging his supporters.
We're diversifying away from American oil, the lead negotiator bluntly stated, citing price volatility, political unpredictability, and the availability of cheaper long-term contracts elsewhere. For Trump, this was more than an economic blow. It was a personal embarrassment. He had spent much of his presidency and post-presidency touting America's energy dominance as a pillar of both foreign policy and domestic prosperity. The idea that the biggest oil-consuming bloc on the planet would turn its back on U.S. exports was exactly the kind of headline he worked to avoid. But now, that headline was everywhere, accompanied by market charts showing sharp drops in U.S. oil futures and a scramble from exporters to find alternative buyers. What stings even more for Trump is the geopolitical undertone of the move. Analysts point out that the decision was influenced not just by economics, but by frustration over America's use of energy sanctions as a political tool. Several nations in the bloc have been on the receiving end of U.S. economic pressure and saw this as an opportunity to reduce their exposure to American leverage. By shifting away from U.S. crude, they're insulating themselves from potential future sanctions and currency-related restrictions. Trump's initial public reaction was measured, a short statement claiming the U.S. still had plenty of markets and that American energy will always find buyers. But according to insiders, his private response was anything but calm. Sources familiar with the call say he lashed out at advisors for not seeing the shift coming sooner, accused foreign leaders of collusion, and even floated the idea of retaliatory trade measures. They think they can push us around. They're going to regret it, he reportedly told one confidant. Energy experts, however, warned that retaliation could be tricky. The countries involved represent an enormous share of global demand, and alienating them further could drive them even closer to rival suppliers. In the meantime, U.S. oil producers are left scrambling to redirect shipments to smaller, more fragmented markets.
Who was there when you met with Putin before? Okay. Who just said that even though the meeting is on American soil, Putin has already won. What's that all about? As part of the deal with Russia, the fake news would say that I made a bad deal! Exclamation point. Pause. Leningrad? What generation are you living in? Leningrad? During his press conference earlier this morning, no, Donald, but everyone believes that this is a total capitulation and surrender to Putin. Putin said he's not going to meet with you unless you agree that Ukraine needs to give up.
A logistical nightmare that could result in lower prices and slimmer profit margins for months, if not years. The economic ripple effect is already visible. Stocks of major U.S. oil companies dipped sharply following the announcement, while shipping firms braced for changes in tanker routes and schedules. Oilfield services companies, heavily reliant on export growth, are warning of potential job losses if the trend continues. And while the broader U.S. economy may absorb the shock in time, oil-dependent regions could feel the pain almost immediately. Politically, the optics are brutal for Trump. His energy-first narrative, often paired with boasts about bringing OPEC to heel and securing record exports, now faces the reality of a strategic snub from the very markets that once fueled those claims. Opponents are already framing the situation as proof that unilateral, hardball tactics in trade and diplomacy can backfire. This is what happens when you weaponize energy. People find ways to live without it, one Democratic lawmaker said pointedly. The move also has environmental and strategic layers. By leaning into alternative suppliers, the bloc is not only reducing reliance on U.S. shale, but also investing in longer-term energy partnerships that include renewables and infrastructure development. For some countries, this shift is as much about future-proofing their energy mix as it is about responding to political tensions. In this light, the decision marks a long-term pivot rather than a temporary rebuke, a signal that the global energy map is being redrawn in real time. Internationally, reactions have been mixed. Some oil-producing nations see an opening to expand their influence in the vacuum left by reduced U.S. presence. Others worry about the destabilizing effect such a large-scale trade shift could have on global prices. Russia and certain OPEC members, meanwhile, are quietly celebrating, seeing this as validation of their efforts to build alternative energy alliances outside of U.S. influence. For Trump, the challenge now is twofold: repair the perception of American weakness in the oil market and find ways to reinsert U.S. crude into the world's most lucrative channels. That could mean offering more competitive pricing, softening political stances, or aggressively pursuing new bilateral deals. But each option comes with trade-offs, and none will be quick fixes. Behind the scenes, lobbyists for the U.S. oil industry are already urging the government to act fast, warning that every month lost could deepen the shift away from American energy. Some are pushing for tax incentives to make U.S. oil more price competitive, while others argue for a diplomatic charm offensive to win back key buyers. Whether Trump embraces either approach remains to be seen. His track record suggests a preference for direct confrontation over subtle negotiation. As the dust settles, one thing is clear: the loss of the world's largest oil market isn't just a bad headline. It's a structural setback that could reshape U.S. energy strategy for years. For a leader who built much of his political brand on the promise of making America energy dominant, the timing and symbolism of this snub could hardly be worse. And unless Trump can find a way to turn the tables, this could be remembered as one of the most significant blows to that narrative yet. In the volatile world of global energy, power often shifts quietly, through gradual deals and back-channel negotiations. But every so often, a move is loud enough to shake the market, and this was one of those moments. Trump may try to frame it as a temporary setback, but for now, the world's biggest oil customers have sent a message: America's grip on their energy future is no longer guaranteed.